In the hours before dawn, a flurry of urgent alerts cracked the quiet across global newsrooms and war rooms alike. The United States military had launched its most aggressive and coordinated strikes against Iran in years. According to initial reports echoed by Reuters and the BBC, waves of American aircraft, naval vessels, and advanced drones targeted a network of sites stretching from Iran's southern coastline to strategic missile emplacements deep inland. This was no limited warning shot. Instead, what unfolded was an unmistakable show of force, tightly orchestrated and confirmed by anonymous Pentagon sources speaking to Defense News. Satellite imagery, analyzed in near real time by open-source intelligence communities and verified by multiple outlets, revealed distinct patterns. Plumes of smoke rising from key Revolutionary Guard installations, flashes of anti-aircraft fire lighting up the night, and abnormal military movements along the Gulf Coast. Senior analysts quickly warned viewers the significance went far beyond routine posturing or tit-for-tat retaliation. This was a signal that long-standing red lines had been crossed and an entirely new phase of confrontation was likely underway. No matter where in the world you watched the news break, the immediate question was the same. What triggered this escalation? How would Iran respond? And how rapidly could this situation spiral far beyond controlled planning into the unknown? The first wave of strikes carved a visible footprint across Iran's military geography. Liveuamap overlays quickly populated with flashes marking attack locations, painting a portrait of strategic intent. Along the Persian Gulf, the port city of Bandar Abbas, long recognized by Janes and Defense News as home to both Iran's conventional navy and IRGC's asymmetric forces, absorbed multiple impacts. Satellite imagery analyzed by GeoConfirmed revealed smoke columns and structural damage at a major naval dock and adjoining radar station, echoing visuals simultaneously broadcast by BBC correspondents. To the east, a series of well-coordinated strikes targeted airfields outside Jask and Chabahar. These installations, flagged for months by Western intelligence as potential drone and missile hubs, were left cratered and burning. Across the interior, deep in Fars and Bushehr provinces, depots associated with missile storage and IRGC command and control operations also registered as struck, according to early AP and Reuters updates. Roadblocks and blackout zones were swiftly imposed by regional authorities, reinforcing both the military's urgency and the confusion blanketing nearby civilian zones. Military analysts cited by Defense News and Al Jazeera note the selection was anything but random. Each target represented either a node of fast retaliation potential, a place missiles or drones could be rapidly launched, or a nerve center for command and logistics. Collectively, the breadth of these strikes not only disrupted Iran's immediate response capability, but signaled the U.S. was willing and able to reach into hardened or previously avoided zones with lethal precision. Viewers could trace the pattern from the Gulf's crowded shores to the heart of Iran's military infrastructure, an unmistakable warning mapped in fire and ash. For weeks leading up to the operation, U.S. and allied intelligence agencies monitored a surge of activities that many in Washington began to interpret as red flags demanding urgent response. Reports cited by AP News and CSIS highlighted a dramatic uptick in encrypted communications between top Iranian commanders, not limited to political rhetoric, but operational language, signaling imminent action. Signals intelligence flagged by RAND Corporation revealed a jump in coded radio traffic near missile storage sites and naval installations along the Gulf, prompting further scrutiny by Western analysts. Satellite imagery, vetted and circulated by open-source observers like GeoConfirmed, provided visible clues. Recently constructed launch pads on the outskirts of key airfields, apparent movement of ballistic missile units hidden under camouflage netting, and increased presence of transport vehicles traveling corridors known for munitions transfers. At the same time, marine traffic and Liveuamap lit up with strange maritime patterns IRGC fast boats swarming in larger than usual numbers, and commercial shipping altering course away from traditional lanes, a trend mirrored in Defense News and Reuters reporting. Inside the decision rooms, these converging data points painted a picture of a rapidly shrinking window for preventive action. Senior defense officials, quoted widely in Western outlets, argued that waiting any longer could allow Iran to stage a surprise escalation, perhaps a mass drone swarm or a sudden missile barrage against Allied forces or tankers. The risk wasn't just a theoretical one. Recent drills and proxy attacks across the region offered concrete reminders of how quickly the situation could spiral. In this environment, the pressure mounted. Better to act now, disrupt the chessboard, and force a reset on Iran's timetable, rather than gamble on another diplomatic delay and risk a catastrophic first move from Tehran. The order came down in the pre-dawn stillness, after a tense final consultation in the White House Situation Room. Satellites repositioned, encrypted lines buzzed, and senior commanders received their execute orders nearly simultaneously across continents. As defense updates and the operations room have often detailed in previous campaigns, the choreography between services was relentless. U.S. Air Force bombers lifted quietly from bases undisclosed to the public. Carrier strike groups in the Gulf surged to heightened alert. Stealth drones already circling off the Iranian coast shifted to an attack formation coordinated through a mesh of intelligence nodes. According to Janes, the first phase relied heavily on low observable aircraft and standoff munitions. Hypersonic missiles and precision-guided bombs were programmed to strike hardened targets milliseconds apart, minimizing Iranian reaction windows. Meanwhile, sub-launched cruise missiles punched through radar coverage, set to arrive just as ground-based ECM, electronic countermeasures, teams blacked out Iranian air defense radars. Navy SEAL teams and cyber units exploited the chaos, triggering digital confusion in Iranian command networks as jammers and spoofed messages painted the threat as coming from multiple directions. Throughout the night, command centers in both Tampa and Ramstein coordinated a live digital battle map, fusing feeds from early warning satellites, airborne sensors, and ground operatives planted months earlier. The operations room's open-source breakdowns of similar joint force missions have shown how vital this data fusion is for timing waves with surgical efficiency. As detonations shattered night silence from Bandar Abbas to Fars, Allied units monitored Iranian comms for clues to escalation. Every move, every delay, was calibrated for both operational supremacy and political signaling maximum shock, minimum friendly exposure, and a clear reminder that American capabilities could penetrate even the toughest, best-prepared opposition. By dawn, the world had witnessed not simply firepower, but what looked from above like the overture of a new military doctrine in action, unfolding in real time. As news of the strikes broke, Iran's official narrative was fast but fragmented. State outlets like Tasnim News released initial statements downplaying the extent of the attacks, insisting that all damage was minor and swiftly contained. In the first chaotic hours, government spokespeople offered firm denials that any strategic sites had been breached, echoing the pattern covered by Monitor in previous flare-ups, protecting national morale, reassuring citizens, and signaling outward calm as shockwaves spread internally. But the confusion was impossible to mask for long. Global journalists from BBC and Reuters, cross-referencing eyewitness social posts and OSINT imagery, pointed to disruptions far greater than officials admitted. As fires raged along Iran's coast and emergency sirens blared in Bandar Abbas and Chabahar, ordinary Iranians were left scrambling for information. Social networks in Tehran lit up with hashtags questioning the government's line. Videos of anti-aircraft batteries firing through the night circulated alongside footage of military convoys rushing south, while rumors swirled about mysterious power outages and missing soldiers. By midday, the government's tone shifted. Previously subdued security alerts became full-throated calls for vigilance, with the IRGC placed on high alert and national TV switching to displays of military strength and parading new missile units, even as questions about damage mounted. The stark contrast between the state's official front and the visible anxiety in city streets, families queuing for supplies, students checking their phones for updates, and elders recalling memories of previous conflicts, underscored how these strikes had pierced not only defenses, but the wider sense of stability central to Iran's domestic narrative. Within hours of the strikes, world capitals were abuzz as officials hurried to craft measured responses, each calculation laced with its own set of anxieties. Israeli leaders moved swiftly, with government spokespeople quoted in Reuters framing the American operation as a decisive step against aggression, while quietly elevating their own military alert status amid fears of Iranian proxy retaliation. Russian officials, in a statement picked up by BBC and CSIS, denounced the U.S. action as unprovoked escalation, warning of destabilizing consequences for the greater region, and calling for an urgent session of the United Nations Security Council. China, balancing deep ties to both Iran and global markets, issued a more muted appeal for calm and dialogue, yet state-run media voiced skepticism about U.S. intentions and speculated, echoing analysis from Al Jazeera and Defense News, that a wider conflict could threaten critical energy routes. Across Europe, leaders of the EU released a joint statement expressing grave concern over the potential for spiraling violence, urging restraint on all sides, but notably stopping short of condemning either party outright. In Saudi Arabia and the UAE, policymakers work behind the scenes to insulate energy infrastructure and ramp up intelligence sharing, fearing reprisals on their own territory or disruptions to oil exports. Financial markets reflected the uncertainty, with energy futures swinging wildly as investors parsed every new rumor or official update. For viewers following these reactions, the uncertainty wasn't just diplomatic. Speculation over how quickly the crisis could escalate and where the next flashpoint might emerge created a sense that a single wrong move could redraw global alliances and shake markets overnight. While missiles struck physical targets, a second, quieter war raged in digital terrain. U.S. Cyber Command and elite Iranian cyber units engaged in real-time battles, each aiming to blind, mislead, or cripple the other's command and control networks. According to CNN and Defense News, well before the first strike, U.S. operatives unleashed waves of targeted malware designed to disrupt radar, missile guidance, and troop communications, and in return, Iranian hackers targeted logistics systems and attempted to sow confusion in allied databases and civilian networks. One of the most dramatic manifestations was GPS spoofing. International tankers and military vessels navigating near the Strait of Hormuz suddenly found their positions drifting on the map, a tactic Defense News reported as increasingly common in this region's cat-and-mouse cyber game. Amidst this chaos, open-source intelligence analysts, the digital sleuths, chronicled by BBC and Liveuamap, monitored social chatter, intercepted radio traffic, and parsed satellite signatures in meticulous detail, piecing together the real action often invisible to the public. These shadow campaigns carried high stakes. A perfectly timed cyber attack could delay reinforcements or cause friendly fire confusion, while even a mistaken signal might escalate tensions with devastating speed. As the world focused on visible explosions, the battle for information dominance unfolded in secret, offering a chilling glimpse into how modern wars are now waged not just with bombs and bullets, but with code, algorithms, and real-time sleights of hand. The military drama unfolding in the Gulf was quickly mirrored by panic across global energy networks. Within hours of the first strikes, marine traffic trackers showed tankers rerouting around Iran's southern coast, their captains wary of stray missiles or potential blockades in the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point responsible for nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply. AP and CSIS analysts confirmed an immediate drop in shipping volume through the strait, with several carriers pausing operations entirely. Major exporters in Saudi Arabia and the UAE braced for further volatility, even as they reassured markets of stable supply. As the sun rose in Asia and Europe, energy traders reacted with alarm. Brent crude futures surged as much as 7% in a single morning, the kind of spike usually reserved for global crises. Insurers responded just as dramatically, halting or hiking premiums for any vessels transiting the region, forcing shipping companies into costly negotiations and detours. Al Jazeera's coverage emphasized how these maneuvers reverberated from Dubai's oil bourse to refineries and gas stations far beyond the Middle East. Meanwhile, economic policymakers scrambled to assess spillover. Currency values in emerging markets wobbled, and government agencies worldwide issued advisories warning of higher fuel prices and supply chain bottlenecks. For viewers, the takeaway was clear. Behind each headline about missile strikes or diplomatic meetings, the consequences echoed into daily life at the pump, on energy bills, and in the fragile calculus that keeps the world's economic engine running. As the conflict threatened to escalate, so too did fears of a broader economic shock, underscoring how warfare no longer confines its fallout to distant battlefields alone. As news of the strikes swept across continents, the lived reality behind the headlines emerged in deeply personal ways. In anonymous interviews aired by BBC, several U.S. service members recalled the hours before launch as a tense mixture of training, anticipation, and silent goodbyes to loved ones back home, each aware that these missions might redefine the lines between routine and real danger. For them, the operation meant a blend of pride in their unit's precision and unease about what escalation might bring next. Across the Persian Gulf, Iranian families awoke to sirens and uncertainty. Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye shared accounts from residents of Bandar Abbas and Chabahar who described hurried visits to markets and fuel stations, anxious whispering about friends in the military, and conflicting emotions of fear and resilient pride. Parents calmed children unsettled by distant booms, while elders recounted memories of past conflicts, reminding the younger generation that cycles of tension and endurance are woven into their national experience. Analysts chronicled these ripple effects, highlighting how ordinary people, be they uniformed or civilian, in Tehran or Tampa, found themselves at the heart of geopolitical drama. Strikes and counterstrikes may dominate headlines, but it is the uncertainty, hope, and quiet decision-making of individuals that shapes how history is truly lived on the ground. As explosions echoed across Iran, the battle for narrative supremacy erupted online. Social media timelines flooded with unverified claims, dramatic footage labeled as live from the battlefield, old videos recycled as fresh, and audio clips hastily attributed to military sources. Analysts at BBC Reality Check and Al Jazeera Fact Check quickly debunked several viral posts. Some were years old, others digitally altered, designed to amplify panic or sway global opinion. Meanwhile, both Washington and Tehran raced to control their stories. The U.S. Defense Department released carefully edited clips showing pinpoint strikes, framing the mission as a model of restraint and precision. Iranian state media responded with images of intercepted enemy drones and rehearsed testimonials from unwavering soldiers. In the absence of independent access to front lines, rumor outpaced fact, and wildly divergent accounts circulated from verified news tickers to anonymous Telegram channels. Open-source analysts highlighted practical steps for viewers. Always question dramatic headlines, look for confirmation from multiple agencies, scrutinize video timestamps and sources, and treat viral posts with skepticism until cross-checked. In this digital war zone, information was as much a weapon as any missile, and those who paused to verify rather than rush to retweet found themselves better equipped to separate shocking reality from fast-moving fiction. With the initial strikes complete, military and strategic analysts across the globe rushed to model what could come next, and their conclusions reflected both uncertainty and genuine peril. Rand Corporation, in a widely cited commentary, warned that large-scale kinetic actions rarely remain contained. Each side now faces a rapidly narrowing path between posturing and accidental escalation. Senior fellows at CSIS mapped out three core scenarios. First, a cycle of retaliation, Iran striking back, perhaps through missile salvos on U.S. positions or proxy attacks against American partners elsewhere in the region, triggering further American responses. This tit-for-tat spiral, familiar from previous flare-ups, is fraught with risk. A single misstep, miscommunication, or civilian casualty could break long-standing taboos and widen the conflict. Second, experts at Janes highlighted the risk of asymmetric escalation, Iran leveraging regional militias, cyber cells, or anti-ship mines to impose pain below the threshold of direct war, turning conflict into a grinding contest that puts constant pressure on U.S. assets and regional trade. Both RAND and CSIS pointed out that, in an interconnected world, even a localized fight could rapidly disrupt oil supplies, global shipping, and economic stability, amplifying pressure for a diplomatic solution. Yet in the face of war drums, rhetoric fueled by heated official statements and social media speculation, several analysts stressed the continued relevance of back-channel negotiation and international mediation. History, they argued, shows that even seemingly unsolvable standoffs often yield to face-saving pauses brokered by third parties, such as the EU, Russia, or Qatar. For audiences, the central tension is clear. Will this episode mark the start of a much wider confrontation, or will leaders pull back from the brink? In the next hours and days, choices made in shadowed situation rooms could alter not only the fate of the region, but the global order itself. Now, as the world stares down this moment of crisis, it's your turn to weigh in. If you were in the Oval Office or Iran's presidential palace tonight, would you push for further escalation or call for urgent talks before this crisis spirals out of control? What is your personal red line, and where do you believe statesmen should draw theirs? Do you think media headlines overhype the risks, or are there hidden dangers we should all be more vigilant about? Share your perspective in the comments below. What outcome do you fear most, and what hope do you hold on to as events unfold? This channel thrives on our audience's insight and debate, and your analysis could be the perspective someone else needs to consider. Don't just watch history shape the conversation around it. And as always, if these discussions help you make sense of global headlines, subscribe and join the next round of debate. The days ahead are pivotal. The decisions made in the next 48 hours, whether in hidden war rooms or on the open seas, will shape not only the trajectory of this crisis, but potentially the stability of the entire region. That's why we'll be monitoring verified reports around the clock, sorting fact from hype, and breaking down new developments as they happen. If you want the clearest, fastest updates and deeper analysis than any headline can deliver, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Only here will you get the context, clarity, and insight to stay ahead of the story as it evolves. Tomorrow's headlines are already taking shape tonight. Don't miss what happens next.